Like you'll often hear people say, my plan is to buy a Ferrari by 25. No, that's not a plan, bro. That's a goal. That's a target. Your plan is, how do I make enough money to get 2 crores by the time I'm 25? Like that should be the plan.
Ankur Warikoo, co-founder of Nearby, is a popular entrepreneur, mentor, and content creator.
He shares honest advice on money, career growth, and personal development, all while helping young people make smart financial choices.
Yes, I hadn't made it to IITs. Yes, I hadn't made it to my top universities. Yes, I had not been the top of my class. Yes, I had grown up not without money, blah, blah, blah. But none of that, frankly, compared to this big event, which was, I'm going to give in all my capacity to whatever extent I can, all the raw materials, but I don't know what will come out of it.
So you've taken risk over and over again, and I guess like it's something you just learn, or you can't pick up these things automatically, right? They just come to you by experience, I guess.
So for us, that input is values, respect, complete ownership of your own decisions. And number 3, zero tolerance to mediocrity.
Well, it is such a delight to have you, Ankur. Thank you so much for being here and sparing your precious time from your day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sukun.
Yeah, of course. So, well, I saw you live in action twice last week, and I gotta say, I was very mesmerized by just how you hold audiences, and your energy and presence is it's pretty freaking magnetic, which is amazing.
Thank you.
And you wear many interesting hats. You're an author of 3 epic books. One of them is right here. You're a content creator, an entrepreneur, a life philosopher. What is your favorite hat to wear?
Entrepreneur, hands down. I think
Yeah?
I operate like one, I think like one, irrespective of what I'm doing. My mind's always as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. But you also have a lot of philosophy that you've learned from the years of experience that you've accumulated, obviously. Yeah. And, the more I hear your life story, it's quite obvious that you've experienced pretty much everything that there is, like failures, ups and downs, all of that. Like, how have you navigated through all of that? Or what's been like your defining moment that's got you to be where you stand today?
I don't think there's been a defining moment. I think there have been very important chapters in my life that now upon reflection seem very pivotal in getting me to where I am. Unlike a Bollywood movie, there's never one night, one moment, one thing that happens that shapes you up. I think it's a series of small events that do. I'm a very ardent reflector of what's happened to me. I like digging into the past, not to ponder upon it,
Ruminate.
not to
Yeah.
live in it, but to certainly learn from. And the more I, even today, look at myself when I was in my 20s or in my 30s, I just realized what I did wrong, what I did right, how I was thinking at that point. And that just helps me get to a better understanding of why
Yeah.
and how did I reach where I am.
And it's pretty clear, Ankur, that you've obviously made your mess your message as you've gone along life. Like you've had so many failures, like so many ups and downs, and yet you are here who just made your mess your message, inspiring people, which is like pretty freaking phenomenal. And
I like
what
the way you
area
put
of
that.
your
I'm gonna
Yeah, it's true.
steal this. I'm gonna steal this away from you, and I will, and I'll use that in my content. I did make my mess my message. Yes.
Do it. And like, the more I hear about your journey and learn about your journey, the more I can't help but wonder that like how does a kid who grows up in a middle class environment where the primary drivers are of course stability and security grow up to have such a massive appetite for risk? Like what is going on there?
I think the key factor there was, for background, I was doing my PhD in the US. That's all that I wanted to do all my life.
Yes.
And I was thriving in it. I was doing well in it. I was on 100% scholarship, so it's not that it was an economic load or anything like that. And after doing it for 2 years, I realized that's not what I wanted to do, and I changed as a person, and it wasn't making me happy. And in that moment, which was a really hard moment, I just decided to quit and drop out and come back to India and start my life all over again. And as surprising as it may sound, that setback set me up for life, because it frankly was the biggest jolt that I had had so far. Yes, I hadn't made it to IITs. Yes, I hadn't made it to my top universities. Yes, I had not been the top of my class. Yes, I had grown up not without money, blah, blah, blah. But none of that, frankly, compared to this big event, which was giving away everything that I dreamt of and quitting all of that and coming back to India and starting at the age of 24 from scratch, just grounds up. And once you go through that and you recover from it and you realize that you were able to and life wasn't so bad, because in a year I was at ISB, yes, with a very big loan, but in a fantastic institute surrounded by really smart people, and all that I had to do was just keep my ears and eyes open, and I was just listening and learning so much that I could not have asked for more. I just felt, hey, that's what happens if you really lift yourself up after what you thought was the worst thing that could have happened. So life's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I genuinely have the belief that we are very, very privileged, irrespective of the circumstances we were grown in. Just the fact that you had a roof on your head, that you had clothes to wear, that you had food to eat, that you had love around you, that you were given a good quality education, that you were given values, and you were taught how to be a nice human being, that just sets you up for so much more than millions of people out there who would not have nearly the same privileges that you were given for no work of yours. So the downside is literally capped. It's capped. I know I'm never going to die of food or hunger or poverty. And that caps my losses. It's like the best gamble ever. When I go to a casino, my losses are capped. My upside is infinite. I'll just play that game over and over and over again.
And you took the plunge in your life over and over and over again, like, US, and then coming back, and then joining ISB, and then you had nearby, and then that didn't go well. So you've taken risk over and over again. And I guess, like, it's something you just learn, or you can't pick up these things automatically, right? They just come to you by experience, I guess.
Yes,
because your parents didn't
get
have
used
that.
to them.
Yeah.
You get used to them. Yeah.
And even when you came back from the US, like, in a way you defied your parents' expectations of what they wanted your life to be like, which is so, like, relevant today, because so many youngsters, Ankur, are, like, just wanting to pursue more and more unconventional career paths against their parents' more mainstream, ideas of success. What would you say to youngsters these days who are conflicted between what their, like, deepest desires and dreams are, as opposed to what society or parents say that they should be doing?
So there's a big distinction that I would make between society and parents. I wouldn't encourage anybody to listen to the society, because society doesn't know what they're talking about. Parents, certainly, they're a different animal, respectfully, and what you have to recognize is where they're coming from. So here's what I always say. Your parents want from your life the exact same things that you want from your life. The exact same things. They want security for you, they want growth for you, they want happiness for you, they want stability for you. You also want the same thing. The difference is not where you want to be. The difference is how do you want to get there. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And that's not a conflict in ideology. A lot of youngsters grow up to believe that they are ideologically different from their parents. No. You want the exact goddamn same thing that your parents want. You wouldn't trade that for anything else. It's just the manner and the approach and the path that you want to take to get to that point. And by that recognition, you have to bear the responsibility of showing to your parents, and by that same virtue, convincing yourself that the path you want to pursue will get you there. Or it's an experiment that you don't know will get you there. And by definition, then it's an experiment you conduct till you know it's working or not working, and you change yourself accordingly. So I love, for example, when I read Will Smith's autobiography called Will, he made a contract with his mom, which was, hey, I want to become a rapper, and I'm really good at rapping. You want me to go to engineering school, so give me 1 year, and if I don't make it as a rapper, I will go to engineering school. And I like that conversation, because then it's admitting that you want to be on a path to the same destination that your parents have. You don't know whether it's going to work out or not, but you want to take a shot at it. And if you were to have this honest conversation with your parents that, hey, if my part doesn't work, I'm happy to take yours because you have clearly walked on that path and done well for yourself? Is that in order? And I think most parents would say yes. As against saying, no, your path is wrong, my path is right, I'm going to walk on that. And the next thing you know is even if you're failing on that path, you're just too embarrassed and are full of ego to admit that you were wrong
Yeah.
and your parents were right.
True. But I also feel that sometimes some parents, like, live their unfulfilled desires through their kids, and that's where things can go very messy. So there's a bit of element of that, if they're unconscious, especially, only then. But overall, like, of course, parents want the best for their kids in whatever they do, and it's just about aligning the approach of how to get there. Yeah.
True.
So talking about, I want to come to the big one of life, which is relationships. And you and Ruchi have been together since pretty much your early days, university days, which is phenomenal, given that how many couples drift apart as they just grow up. Like, you just become different people, right? Like, different desires, different dreams. How have you, like, kept your foundation strong and navigated those differences, if you had those in your journey?
It's a 2x2 matrix. I often think in 2x2
Yeah.
matrices.
Sure.
So on the x-axis is a question, have you had shared struggles or not? So yes or no. So have you had an intensely hard journey and you have shared that journey together? And then on the y-axis was the interpretation of that struggle similar or same or different? And I believe that the strongest relationships are the ones which have had shared struggles and the interpretation of that struggle is also same or similar. Here's an example. If, forget someone else, us, we had a period of long distance for 2 years when I was in the US, 1 year when
Yeah.
I was at ISB, and 3 years is a fairly long time in a period of about 6 years, which is when we had known each other.
Right.
So it's 50% of the time that you're long distance. So that was a shared struggle. It was hard. We were away from each other. We didn't have each other support. And what was our interpretation of that? And my interpretation was I needed to do that, and I actually became a better version of myself during that period, not because she wasn't there, but because I was committed to what I was doing, and she also became a better version of who she was because she was busy with her life while she knew that she had me. So our interpretation was the same for that shared struggle. Now, if it was that I was like, oh, I hated that period and I absolutely abhorred it and I just don't want to do it again. And she's like, no, I felt that that period was really strong and it really made us grow into finer individuals, then that's a disconnect. And that will be a
Misalignment,
lesser
yeah,
grade,
yeah.
even though the
Yeah.
struggle was shared and is perceived. So the highest order is shared struggle with the same interpretation, then shared struggle with different interpretations, then of course no shared struggle and the same interpretation, and the weakest relationship will be no shared struggle and different interpretations of how your relationships have been. And every relationship will go through a struggle, will conclusively go through a struggle. So the good thing is you don't have to set yourself up for something really bad for you to happen to test the strength of that relationship. So please don't be sadistic in there. It's inevitably going to happen. The question is when that happens, how do you as a partnership, as a relationship react to it and of course interpret it in your own head.
Sure, that makes so much sense. And not to put you on the spot, but do you have a view on like why there's a gap in this kind of context these days in relationships, like why people are breaking up so much? Like, is this basic alignment missing or there's something else going on in the background that we aren't aware of?
There could be several reasons. The easiest one is to attribute it to loss of communication or lack of communication. There's just no communication. So everyone can see each other struggling, but you're not really sharing the struggle. You're not really talking about how you're feeling. You're not really even asking the other person how they are feeling. It often is also disconnect of values or alignment around what's important for you, your worldview itself. So for one partner, money may be extremely important. For the other one, money may be something that they dismiss or not even desire. And even if they're going through a period of struggle where they're not with a lot of money or struggling financially, both of them will begin to have very different interpretations and
Versions
experiences
of,
of the exact same context that's happening. But I would attribute 90% of it, just lack or loss of communication.
Or unhealthy communication, exactly.
or unhealthy,
Like
which is
blaming
worse,
game
right?
and you did this and you did that, the whole
Exactly.
freaking blame game that goes on.
Absolutely.
But
That's a whole new world. Yes.
yeah. I think it's safe to say that you've had your fair share of dealing with uncertainty in life and I've had so much rejection you've dealt with. How have you like navigated those times, uncertainty and rejection?
The the steps are the following. The first one is extreme disappointment. You worked hard for something, you think you deserve it, which is not the
Yeah.
truth, but at least you want to convince yourself that that's the truth. You're dejected, you feel like you're not winning it. And I would let those emotions be. I can't deny them, they are real, and I will make sure that I process those emotions because that's part of being human. What I will not allow is those emotions to become permanent. So I'll give myself time to get over those. And over time, I've gotten progressively better. So what used to take, say, weeks to get over, I can now get over in a few hours. But once that is over, irrespective of when it is over, you have a certain point where you are. And often what people do is to now think of what's the next goal. Where do you want to be next? And suddenly, when you are down in a pit, even if you desire another goal, it just is so overwhelming to imagine for you to lift yourself up, get to that point, and see yourself winning because nothing in you at that point is telling you that you can win. And you're low on confidence, you're low on pride, you're low on self respect. So, what I over the years realized is I don't have to aim for that goal. The thing that I have to do is get myself out of the situation I am in. The smallest step that I can take to just change my coordinates. Just change my coordinates.
Yeah.
For example, if there's a rejection that's happened at an interview, and I'm dejected, I'm disappointed, and I take my time to process that. But once I'm done, I'll be like, my job is not to get another job now. My job is not to clear that interview. My job is what's the smallest thing that I can do to get myself out of the coordinates that I'm at. And that could be go back to my resume and make one small change, or send one more email, or apply to one more role than you already had, or speak to one more person
Right.
and do a mock interview, or speak to one more friend and figure out if they know of somebody who has a potential job. Just the smallest thing you can do to get yourself out of that coordinate that you're in. And if you're able to do that, you will begin to feel a sense, however small, of progress. And the biggest insight, Sukun, that I've had in life is humans don't feel as much joy in hitting a goal as much as they do feeling a sense of progress towards hitting a goal. We are animals that thrive on a feeling of progress. We are very fickle when it comes to enjoying a milestone that we have reached after intense hard work. We give it far more value and attribute far more grandeur to it than it actually feels
It
in
is.
that moment.
So true. So
But
true.
the joy of working towards something, knowing that you're getting better and closer to that goal, that is a drug. And if you can imbibe that in your life, which I did over several years of hard work, you just become a very different person. So, step one, allow your emotions to be. Step two, take the smallest step possible to change the location where you are. And then step three, with that feeling of progress, keep taking those small steps. Sooner than you imagine, you'll be far ahead of where you were, and you would look at that past only as something which perhaps will make you laugh.
Exactly. So from what I'm hearing you say, it's about like momentum over achievement. That's what drives us. Because if you're achieving all the time, then you just like, what's the next big thing and the next big thing? And it's called the treadmill, right? The hedonic treadmill. Always stuck on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fair enough. And it comes to rejection. I think you talked about, I think from what I understand, it's about having a healthy sense of detachment from like not making everything about yourself. Like it's not about me, but about the situation is outside. So detaching yourself, right? Not internalizing, basically. Yeah.
I think, yeah, fixating yourself more on the journey than on the goal, because the goal you'll achieve and then you'll get past it. But the journey, if
Yeah.
you're able to enjoy, that'll be immensely fulfilling.
Yeah. In one of your videos, you talk about something very, very insightful, which is never really emphasized as much, especially in the education system, which is what you are good at is not the same as what is it? What you enjoy doing
Yes.
is not the same what you're good at. Like, how do you tell the difference at the time when I love doing something and I might not be good at that? Like, how do you tell the difference in that moment?
I think people will tell you the difference. You may not be able to, and that's absolutely fine, because we all live inside our
Yeah.
head. And especially when you're enjoying
Sure.
something, it becomes really hard for you to dissociate yourself and become an observer of your actions. But people will. And if you were to open your, I genuinely believe, and it baffles me, Sukun, how many people do not crave for feedback. In fact, they run away from it.
Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Yeah.
It's like somebody is not forcing you, but giving you their opinion of what you could do differently to become better. Just hear those words. Someone is giving you absolutely free advice on what their opinion, not a fact, their opinion of what you could do differently to get better. And it's your choice now to accept it or not, or whether to work on it or not. Why would you run away from that? Like, why would people not ask every goddamn person they interact with, how am I doing? What can I do different? What can I do better? It just baffles me. And
Well, I can help you with the answer if you'd like.
the and that's what it is, right? People just don't want to take the truth. There's this wonderful quote which says, the amount of growth that you can experience in life is directly proportional to the amount of truth you're willing to listen to yourself without reacting.
Yeah.
And that's just it. It's just it. So if you were to just go out and say, hey, how can I become a better version of myself? People will give you those things. And then you just keep getting better and better and better if you choose to work on that. But people get caught up in the tonality, how it's shared, and the context in which it's shared, and the moment in which they received it, and so on. And that just
Yeah, I think,
becomes a mess.
I mean, I think there are two core reasons of why people become averse to feedback. One is how it's given. Imagine a child from the age of 5 is being hammered by his parents all the time, like you suck at this, you're bad at this, you're whatever. And then, of course, as an adult, they'll be like, I don't want to hear this. I've heard enough from my whole life from my parents. And the second reason, of course, is a very underlying sense of insecurity. You know, you're not whole with who you are, and then you can't. Everything's like a trigger. Like you get triggered by everything very quickly. So those are the kinds of feedback that usually people run away from. But of course, it's still your loss because it's about how it's done. But you have to learn to get better, and the only person that can do that is someone else because we never know ourselves the way people do, right? So
Exactly. And people will tell you that, you know what, you seem to enjoy this a lot, but I have observed people and I would not place you in the top percentile. Like I know who the good people are, and that's not to take away your hard work and your enthusiasm and your excitement to do this, but the truth is it will either be intensely hard for you or you'll never make it. And it's still your choice, but that's just my opinion.
true. You know, I also love how you say that it's okay to not have a plan. And I love that's so refreshing because given in a world where we're so forced to have our entire lives figured out from a very young age, you know, what you're saying is very reassuring that it's so okay to not have a plan and be okay with that. But at the same time, I was wondering, like, how is that the same as not having or different to not having a sense of direction? Like not having a plan versus no direction, because are they the same or are they different?
Sure. When I use the word plan, I use that interchangeably with a goal and a target, which is what most people think of when they think of a plan. They very rarely think of the path they have to take to hit a goal or a target. This is like, my plan is, like you'll often hear people say, my plan is to buy a Ferrari by 25. No, that's not a plan, bro. That's a goal. That's a target. Your plan is, how do I make enough money to get 2 crores by the time I'm 25? Like that should be the plan, which unfortunately is never spoken about. They just believe that one day it will happen. Anyway, goals and targets are, in my opinion, very misleading, because if you hit them, you congratulate yourself, but you don't know if you could have done better. What if that goal or target was always lesser than what you could have achieved? If you don't hit them, you curse yourself. But what if that goal and target was never within your reach in the time frame that you had decided to hit that? So if you're feeling really happy hitting a goal or a target, or feeling completely disillusioned and cursing yourself, both of these emotions are, in my opinion, inaccurate. Instead of setting goals or targets, what if you set habits? And habits that will set the path that you don't know which one of the millions of paths would it be taking you to the same goal or destination. For example, at 24, when I dropped out of my PhD, I would have loved if somebody said, hey, 20 years from now, you will be a millionaire, not be working a lot, still have the love and respect of a lot of people, feel extremely happy, have a wonderful life, travel a lot, read a lot, spend a lot on experiences, have people that you work with who absolutely adore you, and you have a lot to learn from them. I'm like, sign me up for that life. Absolutely. But in my head, the only path to get there was work hard, get into a great school, then get into a great workplace or a job, work really hard there, get promoted, get appraised, get promoted, get appraised, and eventually you'll hopefully get there. That was the only path I knew. I didn't know that the path I chose, which was not by design, was also one of the paths that I could take. And the only way I landed up on that path was because at that point, I just said, you know what, fuck it. I don't have a plan, so I'm just going to build a mindset or a way of living life and just see where it takes me. And that's what I did. Like, I'm always going to be risk loving. I'm always going to take decisions, not fretting on whether it's the right decision or not. I'm always going to open myself to opportunities that I don't fully understand, to just dipstick them and to figure out what they taste like. I will always love people and the opportunities that they give me, and I'll always be optimistic in life. And when you have multiple of such habits that you work on and you deliberately bring into your life begins to just unfold again on a path that you could not have chosen for yourself, but takes you to the same destination.
Wow, I love that. That is so powerful. And it's just like next level resilience, honestly. I also love how you share about when you went back to Michigan State and you saw that big field with a fence that acts like a barrier and that represents your own life, and how you felt really caged, and how you told people on your audience, like, you know, that in the moment it's okay, like just trust life, it's okay. But I wonder if you can get that perspective in the moment or only in retrospect, that, you know, what do you think?
You can't. I don't think,
right?
even I didn't have that, right? So it'll be
You
foolish
can't.
for,
Like, you don't trust.
you don't. It's just living, and that's what the optimism is. What optimism does is it doesn't give you a fake sense of success. It somehow, even if you don't have evidence for it, makes you believe that it's going to be okay.
It pushes you through, basically.
Which is by and large true.
Yeah.
I believe, and I of course don't have any data to back this up, but most people who do think that life did not work out for them were the ones who in some way gave up on life much earlier than they should have.
Yeah.
And the ones who just believed that it will work out for them, they didn't know when, but they knew, yes, it will eventually, were the ones who at some point of time saw life working out for them.
I think it just reflects like the classic generation gap that exists right now. Like when your generation as millennials, older millennials, and like, you know, Gen Zs, who of course are switched on, like your son's very switched on from what I heard, but it's like a very different level of struggle, right? Like content and this and that and learning. But like, I mean, as a parent, how do you ensure that kids who grew up in this, you know, age of comfort and convenience retain the same kind of values that you have lived your life with?
It's the classic generation problem. I don't think we are the
Right.
ones struggling with it specifically, and I love how
No, but convenience is more now than ever, won't you agree?
No,
In this
absolutely not.
generation,
It's
no?
always been the case. My life was
Yeah,
far
okay.
more convenient than my parents, and my parents
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
far
sure,
more
sure.
convenient life than their parents.
Relative,
It's always
yeah,
been
yeah.
the case. even, and this is how you have to think about that 400 years back, even the strongest king and queen would have a far more miserable life than the middle class average Indian. Forget the American.
Fair.
Better lifespan, more access to medicine, food, choices, security, of course, entertainment, of course, education, of course, knowledge, blah, 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 blah. It's a completely different world. So I think it's a classic case. And again, the optimist in me is like, we turned out okay, despite the fact that we had a lot going for us that our parents work hard for. So our kids are also going to be okay. And the only job then of a parent is not to, and this is how I think of parenting, it's either input-based or output-based. Input-based parenting is, this is where you got to be. This is what you got to do. This is who you want to be. So whether it's an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, or even for that matter, you got to go to this college or this college or this college, or even for that matter, you got to be this person or this person, this person. All of that is output-based, right? It's dependent on the end goal of what you want to achieve. And you're working towards that as a parent. Input-based parenting is, I'm going to give in all my capacity to whatever extent I can, all the raw materials, but I don't know what will come out of it. And I'm not centered on that. So for us, that input is values, and we just want our kids to grow up with the right set of values. We have 3 specifically that we center ourselves on. Respect, which is everyone irrespective of how they look, how they speak, what they wear, how they work, how much they earn, where they stay, all of that immaterial should be respected. And by that same measure, you ought to command respect from everyone around you. It should not come by designation. It should come by who you are as an individual and what you stand for. So that's number 1. Number 2 is complete ownership of your own decisions. You don't, while it may not be even true, you don't think that destiny is anything. You don't certainly blame anybody for where you are in life. You are the owner of your life, and you shall always bear the consequences of your decisions. You should never blame anybody or anything for your circumstances. You're the complete owner of your circumstances, and you also then have the power to change them. And number 3, zero tolerance to mediocrity. We don't want you to win. We don't want you to come number 1, but we want you to stand in front of the mirror and always say, I gave it my best. I gave it my best. And then shit happens or luck happens. Whichever way you tilt, it's something that we'll figure. But you have to always give it your best. You cannot ever say, I could have done more and still chose not to. If these 3 things are clear, frankly, we don't care what ends up with them. Because we're very sure that they are intelligent enough, privileged enough, and capable enough to figure out their life. And our job as a parent is not to dictate what that life will be.
100%. I mean, these are literally game-changing values. They're so like strong in their foundation that everything else just takes care of itself. Very, very cool stuff. And I find it very, very wise for a young teen as yourself to start recording where time is being spent. Where did the idea come from as a young teenager? That's so incredibly wise.
It was more by my drive of, again, that sense of progress that I wanted to feel. So I was preparing for the IIT JEE, which is one of the hardest examinations that any science student prepares for. And when I started to do that, I was like, I don't know where my time's going. Like, I just seem not to be moving at all.
Wait, how old were you at the time?
I was in the
I think you said
10th
teenager,
grade, so
yeah.
I was 15 or 16. 15 or 16.
Whoa, that's insane.
And it was just like, where does my time go? Like, I don't even know. So I didn't know. And that was the honest truth. I just didn't have any sense of where my time was going. And I said, okay, let me just, because as a science student, that's what you're taught, that's what your training is. Before you try and fix anything, record it. And I started recording my time, and I recorded my time, and I was like, oh my God, this is where my time's going. And every single hour was recorded. And then I just fell in love with that recording because it just gave me such an accurate measure of how my time was. And I could then really control it, get a sense of progress, that if I was spending, say, 80% of my time doing things that I thought were meaningful, then that was a better use of my time and my day, as against, say, 60%, whiling away 40% of my time, blah, blah. And it just became such a habit, one of those habits that take you into direction that you don't know of. I did it for 13 years, till the age of 26.
Wow.
Till the age of 26, from the age of 13, I had documented every single hour of every single day of my life. First in a notebook, then on an Excel sheet. I still have the Excel sheets. The notebooks went away, but the Excel sheet is still there. So I can literally tell you what was I doing on the 19th of March, 2004, at 7:37 p.m. or 5:37 p.m. I know that.
Seconds, how many seconds is that? But like, what is a good metric that you use that indicate that your time is being spent well?
75% of my day should go towards things that I classify meaningful or important. That was the benchmark. And
now?
It's the same. It's exactly the same. And I've done that. Now I don't, of course, record all my day, but I look at every year, do an audit, and I'm within that 75% ballpark, give or take, where 25% of my time is what I would say goes towards things that are not important, but they still will be done because that's what life is. But I contain them to 25%, and 75% of my time is going towards things that are important.
Love that. What would you say would be like your top 3 systems that you use to organize your life, or just like, have higher efficiency or productivity or whatever?
Given my age and the generation that I belong to, number one would be my control over email and calendar. So I am a complete email ninja. I manage it better than most people I know. I read all my emails, and I do them in a manner where it doesn't take me more than an hour to do it. I reply to most emails that I want to reply to. And it's amazing how much email has helped me just open up to opportunities that would have been given a pass. Calendar helps me just take a grip over my time. I love that everything in my life is on a calendar. Everything is organized. I'm not a slave to it. I'm the master of it. So I play, but everything is set on stone. So that's number one. Number two is certainly at this point and for the last 10 years or so, being physically active. Which starts with not just going to the gym, but also playing a sport. And I do believe that everyone should play a sport, any sport, even if it's an individual one. I play tennis. So my wife and I are both tennis enthusiasts. We play every day. We watch tennis very enthusiastically. We go and travel to watch tennis wherever we can. And that's joyful, very, very joyful. And plus our working out, our food habits now, which have helped us a lot. And the other system is something which is very hard to do in today's world, but I'm very proud that I was able to do it. Limit my source of information to maximum 3 sources. What I mean by that is anything that I get to know about the world has to come from either of these 3, and everything else, I don't have it in my life. And these 3 things are, number 1, Twitter or X. Number 2 is WhatsApp, which is not, frankly, the best source of information, but no, I filter that as well, so no family groups and shit. And number 3 is my newspaper. These are the only 3 sources of information for me. I don't watch the news. I don't listen to people. I'm not part of any network or community that is giving me any information. This is, of course, not knowledge. So knowledge is separate. This is just information. What is your mind being susceptible to? And it's crazy because in today's world, people are getting information from WhatsApp, and then from Discord, and then from, of course, Twitter, and then, of course, Instagram, and then, of course, Snapchat, and then, of course, news, and then, of course, their friends, and then, of course, blah, blah, blah. For me, all of that is out. It's just Twitter. It's just the newspaper. And it's just WhatsApp.
So okay, those three systems, and you forgot to mention the fact that you wake up at an ungodly hour at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or something
That's
to
that's
organize
more of a
your day.
habit, yeah, and that's worked out really
Yeah,
well for
okay.
me.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a changed person. I used to be a late riser. I used to get up
Mm.
anywhere between 8 to 10 a.m. every day, and it
Wait, I'm very curious. Until how long ago was this?
about 15 years back.
Okay. So
So
basically more than a decade,
so
yeah.
so for the first 30 years of my life, I was a late riser, and then my wife is an early riser. She's always been an early riser, so she started to change me. So I got to about 6 a.m. or so, and
Wow.
then the shift from 6 a.m. to 4:30 took nearly 2.5 years, where I was slow, deliberate, intentional, and now it's a point where, without an alarm, I'm up anywhere between 4 to 5.
Body clock. Love that.
Yes,
Yeah.
just
Wow. So
happens on its own.
just shows change is possible at any time. We
Absolutely.
all get,
Absolutely.
used to these lies we tell ourselves. I'm too old. My brain is used to this certain way of wiring. It's all like BS. But anyway. And what area of your life do you find the most fulfilling right now, Ankur?
It's the fact that I have complete control over my time and the things that I want to do. I think of
Very
a
cool.
I think of a meaningful life as the ratio of things you want to do and the ratio of things that you are asked or told to do. And higher the ratio of things you want to do as compared to things that you are told to do or have to do, the better the quality of your life is. Lower the ratio, which means you're doing more of the things that you have to do or you've been told to do,
Yeah.
less of a healthy life are you leading.
True. I mean, freedom has become the ultimate value for everyone, which is why there's such a bias towards entrepreneurship, and you've lived that life pretty much all your life. So I completely agree with what you're saying. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for your time and your lovely insights, Ankur, like as always. Really appreciated this. And before I let you go, how would you describe an epic being?
I believe an epic being is someone who does what they wish to do without caring what the world thinks of them.
Oh, very cool. Bang on. Yes, absolutely. Which makes you one of them, obviously.
I'd like
So,
to
yeah,
believe
thanks
so.
for reinforcing that. Yeah, and dumb question, the whole of India knows you, but for our overseas audiences, where can people find you, reach out to you, whatever?
The
Yeah.
best way to do so is on Twitter. I'm at Warikoo, Warikoo, and I'm very active there. So hit me up, and that will be the best way to connect. I look forward to that.
Amazing. So you prefer that over Instagram and all your
Oh,
other
yeah,
platforms,
absolutely.
like to
100%.
reach out? Oh, okay. That's news for me as well. Perfect. Thank you so much for this.
Absolutely a joy. Take care, Sukun. Bye bye.